reach a point in some distant reality where each of these sovereign micro communities, micro economies are functioning independently, they're working, they're operating, and yes, possibly there will be some resistance of sorts, and the model needs to be built with that in mind. So the concept of governance needs to be strong enough that it can have the international legal support, that it can say, we are an entity of our own. We believe in the earth, we believe in each other, in looking after the fellow man in the whole scope of the world, and looking after nature. And legally, we are registered under X, Y, and Z. We have this international legal body that is there, that is supporting this growth and ready to go to any form of court in any time where necessary, if necessary, to engage with the old model, to support the old model in understanding that there is no contradiction. This is a complementary, evolutionary approach to development and to taking our society forward in a way. So you've got that in place, and you've got each of these communities with their own currency and growing themselves and still connecting to the international community, working together. You've got this real functionable growth of a new world, and obviously the other end of that is in the developed countries. Maybe the smaller volume of people, the sort of fringe dwellers in the developed countries who can see how much trouble is going on in the world. The minorities there are able to choose then and actually also have viable alternatives and say, oh, well, I have the opportunity to join this Hypha community, or to invest in this Hypha community of this country, and I get this value back. They are sending, whether it's food or other goods, exchanging between countries, between spores, between communities. The people in developed countries would be able to have that opportunity to exchange between, and also have a viable way to step out if certain goods and services are met, which ideally, with enough momentum and need locally, you would find that being created as well. You would find local communities in developed countries also establishing their own Hypha networks and their own education streams and health streams and agriculture streams, so that they can viably step out of this old matrix and function in a sovereign way. So we've got that whole ideal going on, and the only major challenge in the story that I've found in thinking it through in this time, the last few years that I've been sort of chewing on this, is the might over right dynamic and sort of challenge, in that you have in many developing countries, more directly, you could maybe say in developed countries it's less direct, but still there, but you have might over right, which means that whether it's the police or the military, or some rogue group that's funded to come and cause trouble, you have the chance that any form of hardware, such as the spore, is vulnerable for abuse, attack, damage, anything. And that aspect to the story really calls on the imagination of the tech great-grandparents. The tech great-grandparents who are on the fringe now, developing these independent internet service providers and mesh networks and all these different aspects including Suzanne with BitNation and all these different technological tools, they need to take into account, and ideally the great-grandparents of this network would design systems that are there for such countries and such situations where the government says, hey, we're noticing that the people are thriving, and our directive is to keep the people suppressed. In that concept, which we do see, it's a fact. If those situations were to transpire, there would need to be systems in place which would allow the data to be secure, and each community, each spore to continue to function efficiently, even if their hardware was removed. And I believe that technology is out there, and I think that the relationships between the parents, the spores, and the grandparents would enable that sharing of data, that support, that distributed ledger support, would enable that security of data to be possible. And then we can just get on with it. Communities can grow and develop and exchange and just get on with life, enjoying life and building beautiful things and developing beautiful things, without fighting. And eventually, once enough of the populace, enough of the grassroots people are engaged with a system like this, they would stop playing with the bullies. They would stop voting for, politicians who aren't interested in their welfare. But maybe they would still vote for the local municipality because, their local municipality would see that they weren't a threat and would work with them. Possibly there could be some repurposing to the political framework at that point. But essentially, it's about saying, I don't want to play with you anymore. It's really about saying that, you've been a bully and you have only thought about your own interests, and not thought deep enough for the rest of the people. So we don't want to play with you anymore, and we're going to do our own thing. And when you're willing to come and play with us, we're here, and our arms are open, and our hearts are open. And there will never be a door closed. And the bridge will always be open. But don't bring trouble. Don't bring anything unnecessary, let's work with the best of what we have. Let's work with building things that are ecological and work with that. And all these other systems can stay. Those who want to work with unnecessarily abusing the earth and unnecessarily abusing animals and unnecessarily taking more than is necessary for each area, stay in the old system. Keep using your fiat currency and keep living in that world. If it's serving you, stay there as long as you can. But we want to build a new world. We want to build a world that functions and that's beautiful and that loves the earth and each other and people. So that's a brief introduction to this story, to Hypha culture, and it's an idea that's come through me. I have no attachment to it. I feel like I have a lot of inspiration around it, a lot more information around how it could grow and how artists and musicians could be a spearhead for sharing it amongst each community, and certain value for that community would be attributed to its promotion. All sorts of different ideas of its growth. My my purpose and function is to be able to develop a small business that works within it and can go to these remote areas and be a facilitator for the grandparents, to facilitate delivering of trainings of farmers and sharing of information. That's something I feel passionate about, and building ecologically. I feel that that's an aspect, it's a very social aspect that I'm passionate about within an organism, or an organism such as this. And apart from that, yeah, being supportive in problem solving and being a great grandparent, to support the growth of a structure like this. You know, if anyone has or knows of a structure that's similar, that is as developed and as holistic, more than open to be supportive and sharing of ideas and developing such frameworks. But I haven't seen it yet, and I'm open to, and I'm open to share any and all of the information that has come through me. I have no attachment to it, and I speak to you with an open, loving heart, and I wish you well wherever you are in the world. And if this little video makes it to you, keep moving forward and keep your hearts open. Good journey, my cause.